Hello, I'm Jamie.
Hello, I'm Mark, and it's time for another episode of Through the Garden Gate. Got my glamorous assistant with me again. If anyone that watched the elderflower gin along yesterday, they would have seen George as well. Let's get Jamie in. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
Hello.
Is it raining?
Uh-huh.
Oh dear.
Well, I think it's just stopped, but it doesn't look like it's going to stay stopped for long.
Yeah, well, I don't think it will.
It's sunny here.
Yeah.
Blue sky.
No, I'm not going to chance it. Oh, George, you're right.
Yeah, I'm alright.
You got anything to tell us, George?
Well,
Just wondered if you had anything exciting to tell us.
well, there is one thing annoying about the weekends.
What's that?
That the cat escaped down to Hare, where we are right now, and went through the hedge and got stuck.
The cat got stuck in the hedge.
Yeah, so, but she's back in the house now. We had to rescue her.
She got stuck in between the hedge, all the brambles, and then like a chain link fence.
Yeah, so she got stuck.
Wally cat.
Did you have to chop the brambles down to get her out?
Well, I had to find where she was, and then Steph pulled the fence down whilst I was like herding her from the other direction.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was not very. It was stressful.
But he got scratched a lot.
Yeah.
On the brambles or the cat?
The brambles.
Yeah, the cat's very old. She's 15.
Oh right, so she didn't really know what she was doing then.
Yeah.
So, how's your gin?
Well, very orangey, pinky.
Mine's sort of lemony.
I had a taste earlier, like Joe.
Very well. That's
Joe-
not drinking yet.
Smell it?
It smells exactly like it. It smells like lemon jelly.
Lemon jelly.
Lemon jelly, lovely. I had a little taste, and it was just very ginny.
Still ginny.
Ginny.
Yeah. Very
Need 4
ginny.
Oh,
days then.
What, you mean Ginny and Harry Potter?
Not
So yeah, I think we. I just saw Joe come in, but I think we need to leave it. Well, it's got to be 3 days anyway, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
It's only been just over 24 hours now, hasn't
it
it?
has.
So
Time to be patient.
Another.
2 days.
Yeah.
48 hours.
Yeah, another 48 hours. I think it'll be.
And then you can have a taste.
I must admit, I think mine had settled a little bit, and on the top there was some elderflower, which I could see, which was in the air, and it was a bit brown. So I opened it, whipped it out.
No, I ain't got any of that.
Is yours
Maybe
brimmed right up?
I've got a few lemon seeds floating.
No, it's
Pink.
looking forward to that.
Right, go on then. Bedtime.
Right.
See you later.
No, George.
See
Bye.
you soon. Sleep well.
Hello. See you in the morning, Dad.
See you in the morning.
Ah, he's lovely. Isn't he? No, I told you they might go brown. No, you're short of flowers. Shall I put some more in then, Joe? I can pick some more. That's no problem.
Probably just leave them.
Yeah.
So, what have you been up to?
Oh, work. Dodging the rain. I come straight home today and thought I'll go in the greenhouse. I've got some few bits of what the pot on. And it just absolutely hammered it down. Oh my God, I've never seen nothing like it. It was almost biblical.
It's not thrown it down here today. It's literally just been a steady rain all day until maybe an hour ago.
Oh no, it's definitely absolutely hammered it down. Really, really bad. Terrible. But Never mind. That's what you got a greenhouse for, isn't it? Go and do stuff in there.
Yep. And polytunnels.
Yeah. And how's that coming on?
Well, the tank got emptied over the weekend by hand.
Yeah,
1,000 litres
I saw that.
of water is gone from one tank to the other tank, and now that tank's moved so I can get on if I get some dry weather.
There was no way you could put a pipe on it or anything.
We had a pump, like a hand pump, and then we were doing watering cans from the tap at the bottom as well.
Same time.
Yeah, it's just so far down the garden. It's 150 metres. Like, to get extension down there, you're going to need about 3.
At least, yeah.
I don't think that would pass safety regs, would it?
No, definitely
extension lead, extension lead, extension lead.
It probably wouldn't work by the time I got all the way down there.
Only have half the amount of voltage that I started with.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been back to work today then, or you got some time off?
No, I was in today. Well, I had a asthma review at the doctor's this morning, and then I was in this afternoon.
Oh, I love them. They craze me to go in, and then I'll just leave it. And they say, you're not having any more inhalers until you come and see us. Oh, all right.
That's where I was. I had been last February. So I was like, you're well overdue. No more unless you come.
Yeah. Nightmare.
Okay.
Was Chris in today then?
Well, he was in from start, but I didn't get there till 10:30. And then he had his Mini picked up today because he's selling his Mini.
Oh.
So he had to go and sort that out this afternoon.
I didn't know he had a Mini. I thought he had a little, what's he call it? The Igo.
Yeah, he had a classic Mini as well.
Oh, right, I see.
Called Henry.
Chris's Henry.
British Racing Green.
Oh, lovely. Very nice.
Watched it drive off on a car transporter today to the auction house.
Oh.
I think he might be a bit sad tomorrow.
He will, but then he'll get a big wedge of money in his pocket and he'll be all right.
Well, he was saying he's going to double his money pretty much from what he paid for it 12 years ago.
Yeah, I bet.
And he doesn't drive it that often, so it's just sat in his garage most of the time. Problem.
Have you done any gardening then?
What, at work or at home?
Either.
I've planted some lovely ammi that I received in the post from the lovely Joe.
Ooh.
I was expecting like a couple, and there was like a massive box full of them. So I've got some lovely ammi.
When she sends you stuff, she sends you proper stuff. No. Then I said to her, "Oh, you can have some of these strawberry plants," and I never sent them, and they all died. God, I'm terrible, absolutely terrible. She always sends lovely stuff.
We need to make
it.
7 is still more than 2 that I was expecting.
Yeah. That's come in. Oh, I keep looking at my garlic. I pulled another one up because it's got really bad rust. I'm just in the middle of making a reel at the minute, but I pulled 2 up now and they're still perfect. So I think I'm just going to leave them. It's only another 3 or 4 weeks, isn't it? 3 weeks.
Give or take.
Longest day to harvest, isn't it?
Yeah. They might just not store as well, so you might just have to use them all quicker.
Yeah.
That's the only thing rust tends to affect is storing.
IDD. Yeah, well, so I suppose I could freeze some then. A lot of people freeze it, don't they? They just crush it up, put it into little ice cubes or something, and then freeze it.
Yeah, they might just not last till like this time next year, like what they usually do if they're all dried out.
Yeah, it's better to freeze it. I tell you what I'd like to do is, because you get wet garlic, which is without drying it, don't you? Like peeling it straight away.
Yeah.
Put some of that in some olive oil in a jar or something.
Yeah.
That'd be quite nice.
So much easier to peel when it's fresh as well, isn't it?
Oh my God, ridiculous! Yeah, it just falls off.
Yeah. Only you can get it like that all the time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna leave them. I'm gonna just make a choice and leave them until another couple of 3 weeks, then have them up.
Yeah. Need some sunshine.
Looks nice, lovely. It's all grey and miserable here. Yeah, you don't have to rub it in.
See, blue sky. Makes a change for my garden to be the dry one.
I know, it's normally me dry and sunny, but it's been terrible today. Absolutely terrible. From about 11 o'clock all the way through. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, Danielle.
Daniel's here. Oh, should we get our guest in?
I think we probably should.
Looking forward to this one. Not that I don't look forward to all of them, but...
So tonight's guest has something in common with me. He's a head gardener. He shares a name with a former England #1 goalkeeper.
Yes.
Historic Melbourne Hall in Derby. He loves plants, fungi and animals, and is known to have a good sniff of a beautiful rose. Introduce you to David James at Melbourne Hall Gardener.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
First of all, that picture, gosh, I was under pressure in the rose garden in the moment. I was overtaken. Oh.
That was the picture of the sniffing the rose.
Yes, yes. I suddenly realised I have actually no pictures of myself on my phone.
That's the thing,
which is a good thing. It's a good thing. So I'm going to have to improvise here. Oh, look, there's roses.
Perfect.
Selfie sniff.
Absolutely.
And then delete it.
Yes, delete it immediately. After it's made its way across the globe online.
Exactly. It's on the internet now. It's there forever.
Yes. Yeah, right. You're in a much nicer setting. The sun's shining.
Yeah.
It's beautiful there.
Yeah. Yeah. Look. You can see the sun shining through the trees, Mark. It's lovely.
Coming through the head, I see.
Lucky boy.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And
yes. It's been rain here all day.
Yeah, it's been the same here. Miserable.
So where are you, David?
So we're in South Derbyshire. I mean, not the most romantic spot. We're right near East Midlands Airport, Donington Racetrack, where Download Festival happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're sort of in a little town. I would call it a village. It's very small, but where we've got this home called Melbourne Hall, which is you don't actually see it from the road. You can't really see it from anywhere. It's all walled, but you sort of step through the gates, and then you come across this beautiful sort of hidden gem.
Wow. I love those ones. Absolutely love them.
Yeah. But that's the one problem, is no one ever seems to know that we're there. So many people get in touch to say, "Oh, I had no idea this place existed only down the road from me."
So it's an open garden. Anybody can come and see it.
Yes, I mean there is a ticket price, but it's open from April to September. On Wednesdays, Saturdays and Sundays. We're an RHS partner garden as well, so if you're an RHS member, it's free entry.
Yeah.
We're open all through those months. We might be opening slightly earlier in years to come, from March, because we're hoping to have sort of a collection of Corylopsis, and of course they're known for flowering a bit earlier. So hopefully that will be some earlier interest in the year. And we have plenty of crocuses, and there's some lovely snowdrops in one area of the garden that we call the Arboretum. So there is a lot of interest a little earlier on that people would miss.
Yeah.
And we've got a beautiful winter garden, which is full of the scented, like we've got daphnes and sarcococcus, and there's some winter flowering honeysuckle in there, and you can smell the scent from sort of 100 yards away. And I always feel it's a shame that people don't really get to see that. So hopefully if we do start opening earlier with this collection, it might not be immediately, it might not be next year, they'll get to enjoy that as well.
You can't be walking around the corner and think, that's a Daphne.
Float over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the best smell in the world. Absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. And it's from so far away as well. I'm always amazed in the middle of winter, there's not that balmy air that you expect, when you've sort of in the middle of summer. Sometimes those scents travel on that sort of still air, but I mean, in the middle of winter, the coldest day, and there's that smell of daphne hits you. You haven't even seen it yet. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Where is it?
Brilliant.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
oh,
Once they're happy as well, they start suckering like mad. It's quite hard to control them, really. They just keep coming up everywhere.
yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
Oh,
It's not bad,
it
is it?
is. I'd rather have Daphne than anything else.
Definitely love
Mm.
them. How long have you been there then?
So I've been here sort of 2 years and a few months now. Sort of just ended up here, I would say. I never really applied for a job. It just sort of happened. I was working somewhere quite locally, ended up living in this village and, well, this town, and happened to speak to someone, and they mentioned that they were looking for a gardener, and that was something that I wanted to go into because I was in commercial. I was in a garden centre before.
Okay.
And I was really wanting to do something more hands-on and in one location, because I'd worked in gardens before, but we're always travelling around, and you're never really getting to see things through the seasons, through the year, and having a hand with all that. So it was always something I wanted to get into. And so just on a chance, just mentioned, oh yeah, I wouldn't be interested. I'd be interested, and to put my name forward, and here I am, 2.5 years later.
Brilliant. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. It all just seems to happen. Very, very, very fortunate.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it's constant. It's like that all through. Like even studying horticulture was something that I was living with my grandmother at the time, and we moved to England just after my grandfather passed away, and we were in the area of Pershore, and there was a horticulture college, and I'd always been interested in plants and gardens, and so we thought, oh, you know what, why don't I just study horticulture? That would be something nice to go into. There's nothing planned previously, so these things just sort of keep happening. I just get taken along.
So you studied while you were working in the nursery?
No, so I was brought to England. I'm from South Africa originally.
Right.
And my grandmother, after my grandfather died, we came over to England together, and we were going to see her parents, and they lived in Pershore, obviously where the horticulture college is. Most people seem to know Pershore. And so I studied while I was there. We decided, oh, that would be a good thing to do. And so while I was studying, I was on a full-time course for a couple of years. And so, so I wasn't working at that time, but then we moved back to South Africa, and then I started working in nurseries and garden centres and things over there, which it's a different sort of culture when it comes to gardening in South Africa. It's not usually a line of work people go into, I would say. It's not really something you can do and earn a living with.
Oh, really?
Most people, yeah. I mean, unless you're like a head gardener in a place, or you're managing a team, or you've got your own business. It's not. I find it great actually in this country that people can sort of do any sort of job and earn basically enough to live on. Often people have to struggle a little, but it's not like in South Africa. There's a lot of very cheap labour available, unfortunately, because people are quite desperate. So I always laugh, because when I was over in England studying horticulture, we had a call with someone back in South Africa who was from Zimbabwe on it would have been Skype back then, not Zoom. And I remember her saying, "What are you doing there?" And I said, "Oh, I'm studying horticulture." She says, "What is horticulture?" I said, I'm studying gardening, Stella." She goes, you are going to college to be a garden boy. Hey. It's no good. So completely different culture. But I'm glad I'm here and doing this now. I wouldn't be doing anything else, I don't think.
No. So in South Africa, the gardens, do people have gardens? Like, we all love our garden, we plant it out and etc. But do people have gardens, or?
Yes, I mean, people have a lot more outdoor space than we do here, because obviously England everyone's sort of living quite on top of each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
And there's these sort of little terraces, but I wouldn't say people love their gardens as much as here, and people aren't as aware of plants as much as here, and sort of the seasons and all that. I mean, it's a different kettle of fish, really, but people generally like to keep their lawns green.
Yeah.
And I think more now than when I was younger, people are becoming a bit more aware and trying to plant gardens of succulents and things, because obviously the water's a problem there. But it's a whole different culture. There's a few beautiful gardens. So Kirstenbosch, the main botanical gardens in the country, in Cape Town, is absolutely exquisite, and they have a lot of the proteas. Obviously, the Erica family. There's a lot of plants, and the Restios. I don't know if you saw clips, or maybe you were in person at Chelsea and you got to see the South Africa display.
That was amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wasn't it just?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Fantastic.
South Africa, Cape Town especially, actually, the Western Cape has got its own floral kingdom. It's got a Mediterranean climate, and there's thousands of species. Many of them don't grow anywhere else in the world. It's such a special place for plants. And the scent that comes off them as well, it's really incredible. But yeah, so it's a very diverse part of the world, horticulturally speaking, botanically speaking, but each sort of household isn't that really bothered with, I wouldn't say, but people like their plants as well. It's a bit of a paradox, but yeah, it's hard to I couldn't have a conversation, like a very good horticultural conversation, with many people,
Right.
but there are those who love their gardens.
Yeah.
I've just seen a comment about growing protea in this country. I know down south in Cornwall, people can grow some. There's one protea in particular, which is the king protea, Protea cynaroides, that it can go down to like -5, but it must be kept dry, and it needs ventilation. It doesn't like a humid greenhouse, so that's why they struggle to grow here. But if you can provide that for them over winter, they'll be all right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Did you go to Chelsea then?
I did, yes. Very fortunate that my employer sends me, bought tickets and pays for transport and everything. So very lucky.
Yeah.
Get sent to Chelsea, perhaps to pick up some ideas, to show us what we should be doing in the garden.
Yeah.
Go and learn how to be a good gardener. That's it. But yes,
Yeah. Well, why
I
not?
enjoyed it very much.
I loved it. We went on Thursday and thought it was absolutely amazing.
Oh, we
loved every minute
missed
of it.
each other. I was there Thursday as well.
Oh, was you? Oh, dear.
Yes, we had a better day. I think Wednesday was an absolute washout, wasn't it?
It was, and you could see the mud and the grass. It's absolutely horrendous.
Mm-hmm. We were brave enough though, because no one wanted to stand on the turf they'd laid around the gardens because it was too boggy. Yeah. So for brave people who didn't mind getting wet feet,
that's it. Yeah, you
dodge the crowds.
You get a better view.
Yeah.
and I didn't take my umbrella because Chris had his little rant about umbrella, so I thought, no, I'm not going to take it. Luckily, I didn't need an umbrella anyway. It got out really hot in the afternoon.
Yes, it did actually, didn't it? Mm-hmm. We're thinking of wearing if I could get a walking ring or something next time, with sort of spikes on the edges, just to clear away for us wherever we
keep
go.
away.
My colleague was saying a big sort of sombrero, but I don't know, sort of cultural misappropriation, our sensitivity. So I'll stick to a walking ring.
What were your favourite bits then at Chelsea?
It feels awful to say. I went last year as well. Yeah. And the one with all the Cedric Morris irises. I can't remember. They call it the Sarah Price Garden or something. But that was so outstanding that I think the expectations were quite high. Yeah. And so there was some very, very good planting this year, I think, in the National Garden Scheme one.
Loved that.
And
absolutely loved that.
The forest bathing.
Yeah.
Again, I think the planting was just spot on. there were some colour combinations in many of the other gardens which I just felt, oh, they're a bit jarring. I think I perhaps have to mention, though, I'm very, very lucky here. I probably wouldn't have said this a couple of years ago because I wouldn't have been any the wiser. But working where I work, so Lady Rafekar is the lady in the house, and she's designed all the borders over the last few decades. But she's an artist as well.
Oh, wow.
So the colours are very, very important. And she's often mentioning things about colours that I feel so ignorant because I'm trying to get onto a way of thinking, really, really trying. Obviously, just don't have as much of a colour vocabulary, but being so used to the way the colours are so well placed and well designed here, and perhaps going with a bit more of a critical eye now, and noticing, well, I think we're quite spoilt where we are because the eye she's got is really, really spot on, and everyone mentions that when they come, that the planting is really, it's like a painting itself.
Exactly. I think you struggle to compete with an artist, won't
Absolutely.
you?
And a mature garden versus a garden that's whipped together in a few weeks is going to have a lot more.
And often with plants that are sort of so closely packed together, they're sort of not very practical, not the sort of garden you can actually have many of them. But I think that's why I like the National Garden Scheme one. Things very naturally planted, weren't they? They're sort of as you'd expect to see them. And one garden, I don't know your thoughts on this, that I thought were very, very good was the Beth Chatto one. I think it was Freedom from Torture or something, the Torture Garden.
Yes, that was one of the smaller ones, wasn't it?
Yes, one of the sanctuary gardens.
That's it, one of the sanctuary ones.
I don't think it did very well medal-wise, but I thought of all the show gardens, that was my favourite.
Yeah.
Really liked the planting in that.
I tell you which one I like. I like the flood-resistant one.
Oh, yes, with the... Yeah, that was very
nice
planted. Yes.
I really like that.
Cleverly done, wasn't it? With all the different levels and then walkways that you could walk on when it was flooded and stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. You still get about, even when it got flooded higher and higher, you can still get about. It was really nice. I love that.
But
then of course, I loved
Silver Gilt.
And
oh yes, Silver Gilt.
Yeah.
Who got Silver Gilt? Anne-Marie got Silver Gilt, didn't she?
The Torture Garden, I think.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, for the Torture Garden.
That's quite funny actually. I was chatting to one of the he's called Scott Brooks. He's one of the he gardens at Beth Chatto's garden, and he helped put the garden together. And I was asking about a few of the plants, and he's got this apron with this huge word "torture" across it. And I don't really look too much into the story behind each garden. I'm sort of looking at the planting, and I go right to it. What's this garden about? That it's got this huge word "torture" right in my face. Yeah. That pond there represents the waterboarding. I don't know. That's the pulley system. I don't know. Sorry, no, I shouldn't joke. But, there were some really unusual sort of species roses in that garden too. So very nice plants. Some of them, when you can sort of tell what the plants are, you're used to them. But I love that when they can add a few more unusual things.
Yeah. I did like that one. I liked Anne-Marie Powell's garden as well. That was fantastic. I love that.
Yes, that was very, very popular, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I struggled to get a very close look at that one because it was so popular. So it sort of tried here and there, but yeah, from what I saw, it was very, very beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And
very fresh.
The Water Aid garden as well, with the big upturned funnels.
Yeah,
massive ones. That was amazing. But what I did notice, everything when you see it on TV the few days beforehand, everything looks absolutely ginormous. But the obviously it's a camera angle.
Yeah.
But they were nowhere near as big. They looked about 30 foot high on the TV.
Yeah.
And they were about 12 foot, weren't they? Really?
Yes, they weren't massive.
Yeah.
I love what they had growing up through it as well, and the planting on top, just out of reach, and you just see sort of snippets of it. Oh, I love that. It's such a nice sort of attention to detail.
Yeah.
Don't know if the judges never got to see up right on the top, but it looked good from down at the bottom.
They probably had
Yeah, whether you could actually get up there to weed it.
Yes.
Put somebody up there. You got
Yeah,
to down on a harness.
Sort of like, is it the Winnie the Pooh shimmy up the middle tree? That's what it was there for. It wasn't aesthetics. it's the way up to the top.
Enough about Chelsea anyway. We're not here to talk about Chelsea. We're talking about you.
Yeah. Oh, bless you. I think Chelsea's probably more interesting.
No, tell us about your garden then, or your work garden. Tell us all about it.
The original layout of these gardens was from there's a plan up. We've got a plan on display as you come into there's a bit of a visitors centre thing with a few photos and that. And there's an original plan from 1704.
Wow.
So, and basically the layout of the garden is very much the same. That original of the lawns on the fronts and these long sort of avenues with fountains and just different views. So you turn a corner and there's a big long view of lawns and hedges up to an urn, or there's a fountain at the end of it. You know, it's very much of its time and really beautiful to walk through. But that exists from that time period. There's even this beautiful yew tunnel that would have been planted around then, sort of first couple of decades in the 1700s, that has matured into this sort of, I don't know, it's almost alive.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a picture from the 1860s which shows this yew tunnel as very much like a semicircular, like a train carriage almost.
Okay.
And it's been clipped completely dead straight with this like door frame, rectangular door frame cut out one side. But we're told, at least there's a theory, I don't know how true all these things are, but that during the war, during the war, when all the able-bodied men were off fighting for the country, it sort of was left to take on a bit of its own shape, and then having to try and trim it back, and it's taken on this sort of life of its own. And I think it'd be more beautiful now than it would have been as a train carriage look, I think, because it catches the light as the sun moves through the sky, and you get all those different shadows, and through the year the sun's at different heights, so you get all these sort of faces and animals emerging from it. So it's quite amazing. There's a wonderful atmosphere to these gardens. There's a lot of water, the sound of the fountains. Because there's so many trees, there's a lot of bird life, so the bird song's quite overpowering at times. And so whenever there isn't an aeroplane flying over, at least, it's really, really tranquil. But yeah, so it's great for atmosphere.
Lovely. It sounds fantastic. Really. Have you been, Mark?
No, not yet.
Well, please come and let me know when you do, and I'll show you around.
Yes.
And I can show you all the behind the scenes stuff as well.
Oh wow!
The stuff that's not as pretty, but shows what goes into everything trying to stay pretty.
Yeah, I love a compost heap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing like them. We've managed to make some good compost just within the last 6 months. We were so happy with it. We turned it once, and we've just been digging into it in the last fortnight. We're so happy. So euphoric with compost.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You got to taste it, and it's right. It's ready. It's right.
Look, Nat says she'll meet us there, so we'll get a little group to come up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll show you all around.
Fantastic.
So the original plans were for sort of 300 years ago, but through the years things have changed a bit. There've been many different. There've been this particular family's lived in the house. There's been generations of this family going back to the 1600s, so it's still the same family. It's changed name 4 times, and it's this last particular family who I work for, who are absolutely lovely. I love them to bits. Who've really tried to make it into something more, I think. And what especially Lady Ray's done with the borders, and cleared an avenue behind this sort of wrought iron bird cage, which is 300 years old and which is the hall is quite famous for. It really transformed it into something amazing. So working in the borders is my favourite bit, though. I like the informal planting. Lots of primulas we've got at the moment that we're trying to bring more of and encourage more of. But it's changes so beautifully through the seasons.
I weren't into primulas very much until this last couple of months. And the ones I've seen on TV and places, some of them are absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Did you see Francis Tophill talking about them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't aware that they, what was it, every 5 days or something, put on another
something like that.
A tier. Yeah. So it's almost like with tree rings now. Go around counting all the candelabra. Yeah, we've got some. Like one was on its 7th tier, which is quite amazing. I didn't know they could quite grow like that, but with this wet year we've had.
Well, and the bottom tier was still good.
Well, no, the bottom tier, the flowers are finished and they're producing seed already. But then you've got quite a few up. They so some are producing seed, some have just gone over. The ones at the top are just sort of forming and opening, and then you've got some that are fully open, like 2 or 3 tiers that are nicely open.
Yeah, I've just really changed my outlook on primulas this last few months. Lovely.
I don't know about you. When people mention primulas, before I was used to all these beautiful candelabra ones, I used to just think of the ones that you get at garden centres. A bit
they're like
a bit dull. Yeah, but yeah, these are beautiful. Really, really beautiful.
Even just the standard cowslips on masse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and great for the wildlife as well.
Of course. What's your team then? Have you got a team, or is it just you?
Yeah, there's 4 of us. There's 2 that sort of mainly are trying to keep on top of the lawns and the hedging and that sort of thing. More sort of groundsmen who work so hard. They work full time. I'm very fortunate to have a 4-day week, and the other gardener, Fiona, does 3 days, and we have a few volunteers as well. Yeah. We're trying to do a bit of a volunteer recruitment drive at the moment. So I'm gonna have to try and advertise just to make people aware that we're here. Fiona, who works with me, she said she used to volunteer at a National Trust property just near us called Cork Abbey. Oh yeah. And sometimes apparently they're having to turn volunteers away because they have to limit the numbers.
Oh, what?
So please send them our way.
Not so many.
Yeah, we've got. Sorry.
That might be worth giving him a phone call just to tell him,
Yes.
So they can send them your way.
We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to take the head gardener for dinner and.
Yeah.
Please. Yes. Eloise Brooke, I think, is the head gardener there. She's really lovely, and it's a great garden to visit as well. If anyone wants to do a few gardens, if they're ever in this area and they come to us, Cork Abbey is also a beautiful garden. Lovely kitchen garden that people love. Oh, someone's threatening to volunteer. Oh, please. I usually try and make cake for volunteers as well. So if anyone's interested in even coming for cake at lunch, help with the dead heading even for an hour.
Nat went to Melbourne Hall, didn't she?
Yeah, she's done some volunteering there.
She's been to do some volunteering for Danielle. So
yes,
there you go.
Oh, another great chap. He's doing such a good job at Middleton. Yeah. I had to actually mention I've not been to a garden that's felt so alive for such a long time. There's a real sort of hum of life there. Really, sort of vitality, I suppose is the right word. Everything feels like it's alive.
Oh, wow.
Really, really beautiful.
The history's amazing.
Yes. The gardens are in South Derbyshire. Melbourne Hall for Catherine Gray stuff.
Join the party.
Oh, nice. My comments have stopped working. Surprise, surprise. Never mind.
Yes.
You have to
So
keep on top of them.
there's an arboretum nearby called Bluebell. I don't know if you guys are very familiar with this area. So there's a chap there very into his trees called Rob Vernon, who's I think he set the arboretum up in about the 90s. So it's not a really old one, but I mean it's beautiful. It's done a great job there. But he's given a lot of advice on the initial planting of trees and shrubs in his garden. And so there's quite a lot that's botanically very interesting. I know some plants I'd never seen, but I think I'd seen them on plant lists or in books, but I'd never really seen nice mature specimens. So we've got not I'd seen tulip trees before, but we've got a lovely variegated one there. There's a cross between the American and the Chinese called Chapel Hill, which comes out with this beautiful bronze foliage in the spring.
Wow.
Which is we've got a lovely old one in the garden. There's a handkerchief tree. There's actually two. One's flowered for its first time and is quite young, but we've got a massive one which it looked beautiful for weeks. Which again, it's rare you see them old, mature, and flowering so beautifully.
I've never seen one.
No,
I've never even heard of one. To be honest.
Oh wow! So I think they're in the Cornus family, like dogwoods.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know how dogwoods have the bracts, and then they've got the flower on the inside. Well, this is similar. You get the flower on the inside of very showy bracts, but the bracts hang.
Yeah.
So it's like a handkerchief. I think they call it a dove tree as well, which is perhaps a bit more. I don't know. It's a nicer name than handkerchief, I suppose. But it sort of hangs there. Supposedly, the bracts are supposed to shield the flower from wind or something. But yeah, it's quite a spectacular thing. I heard a story, Ernest Wilson, the plant collector or hunter. Yeah. Obviously, we've got many things in the gardens thanks to Ernest Wilson bringing them over. But I was reading a story about the first ever handkerchief tree and when they first came over from China, and apparently he'd heard about this tree and was on this hunt to try and find it, and I think he'd heard from a French priest in China where he'd seen one, and weeks of traveling later he eventually turned up on this spot, nearly dying from yellow fever, and he arrives on the spot and there's just this stump. And someone had chopped it down and built a house with it.
No way.
But eventually he went on to find another sort of bank of them growing on a mountainside, and the seeds that came over from that trip for many decades were the parent plants of any plants that were existing in England at the time, which is quite cool.
Oh, great story.
Yeah. Well, these funny things you can tell people when you're having a tour of the garden, add a few funny stories.
You do guided tours then?
Yeah, generally for groups. So anything sort of over 10, there's usually sort of a group rate and people can come, and I like to show people around. But if I'm showing friends around and people I know, I'll always throw a tour in for them.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, there we go.
I think sometimes you can walk around a garden and not quite appreciate the history of it, especially if you're not really into garden history and you don't know sort of the styles that the garden's based on, and seeing the garden through the eyes of the history and all the people that used to live in it really helps it to live.
Yeah,
because the chap who actually designed the gardens was a member of the family. So the initial owner from this family was someone called Sir John Cook. Right. And it was his, I think, grandson who was, I've got to remember this, remember all the historical details. I think he was the Vice Chamberlain to Queen Anne.
Wow.
But he's the chap who designed the garden, and he's called Thomas Cook. Not the travel agent Thomas Cook.
I'm glad you said it, because I was just about to as well.
Although Thomas Cook, the travel agent, is also from Melbourne.
Oh, wow.
So, got two famous Thomas Cooks from Melbourne. But yeah, this is Cook spelled Coke, and I'm pronouncing it how I've been taught to pronounce it by the historians and tour guides and things there. He was the one that actually designed the garden with some input from some London designers, and it was based on that sort of Le Notre style, you know, the Versailles gardens. So that's the general, very, very formal, you know, as I say, lots of sort of paths and statues and fountains, and is very picturesque. Yeah. But again, with this real good contrast where you go from the formal lawns and then you walk into where the borders are, and it's all this beautiful cottagey, full of flower and sort of bees and butterflies and things. So yeah, it's a great contrast. But yeah, so that's the history. And Sir Thomas Cook is the one that did the design. We've got his portrait looking through one of the windows of the house out onto the gardens. This is that reminder, looking out at his work, making sure we keep things sort of the way he envisioned.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
I always, because there's a garden near me called East Ruston Vicarage, and that's my favourite garden. Not that I've been to many, but I love it, absolutely love it. It's 32-acre garden, and I always think it's like similar to what you're saying. You know, you go down. There's a dead straight row of hedges, and you can turn, and there's a focal point down there. But there's so many ways you can walk around a garden. It's completely different. Yeah. Because I've been maybe 10 times. You can walk around one way, and then you come around. You can see it come back the other way. You know, 3 weeks time, and it's completely different because you're seeing things from completely different angles.
Yeah.
So I always
takes such skill to be able to design from all those different viewpoints, so that whichever way you look at it, it looks right and it's fitting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's what's so masterful here. And what's amazing is, I don't know, sometimes things have just happened or not, but just those yew hedges and then some new planting that's gone in with them. It will be designed because it's Lady Ref, she's got an amazing eye. But just the contrast of sort of variegated foliage with the yew hedge in the background creates such a great frame to it all. And, you know, these little, you walk along the hedges, a lot of it sort of at eye height, you can't really see over it. And then suddenly there's a little dip. And there's a little planting that's gone specially in that area, so of taller things that just sort of catches the eye. Yeah, it's been so well designed. It really takes a lot of skill.
So has it been? Is it all? I can't remember what her name is. Lady.
We always refer to Lady Rafe.
Lady Rafe, right? Yeah. So, has she, the time she's been there, has she changed it much, do you know? Or is it
very much? Yeah. So again, not the sort of original layout.
No.
That's very much as it was.
Yeah.
But I think through the Victorian period, it became very, very woodlandy. And so when the current Lord and Lady sort of moved in, there was a lot of laurel and sort of rhododendron ponticum and, you know, sort of just beech and yew and all these sorts of things. And she, with this vision again, because to sort of tackle something that's like a jungle really, with this idea of what it's going to look like, I find quite exciting. But it's completely transformed in the last few decades. I don't know exactly when they moved in or started this work on the garden, but really transformed it. I haven't seen pictures from that time. I've seen pictures from sort of 10 or so years into it, and again it looks a lot different. Even from like 15 years ago, the changes, there've been sort of quite large trees have had to be removed, and so that there's this vista. So if you stand at the back of the house and you look down onto the lawns and you see that sort of body of water, don't you? If you've seen pictures of this, we call it the Great Basin.
Right.
And then you have the bird cage behind it, and there's this hill behind that, which is this beautiful avenue now of lime trees, and some very young ones because it's only recently been planted. But when they moved in, that was all completely, there was trees right across the back there. Okay. And so Of course, it was a huge job to get all of that taken out, but it needs that avenue. Sort of, it's made the view amazing, and obviously been planted in the correct way, so it looks like the view's going on and on and on. You know, you don't plant in straight lines; you plant at a slight angle to make it look like the view's going on forever. But yeah, so the Victorians sort of cluttered everything up a bit, but that was very much the style of the day. But it's really been transformed into something amazing. I'd love to have seen it decades ago.
Oh yeah,
just so I could see the change. I must actually ask if there's some photos from the time. I'm sure there are knocking about somewhere.
Yeah, there must be. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Because you know that garden so well, and all of a sudden you go, "Oh my goodness, look at that! That's there." That'd be be mental, absolutely mental.
It would be.
Yeah.
I know there's just looking at the pictures from the 1860s is quite fun actually, because there's not many of them, but certain viewpoints of the house, there's these lovely cedar trees on the front, which they're there, you know, 100 and what's it now, 60 years ago. There's that tree growing, and you know, you can see it. One amazing thing we've got as you come in through the entrance into the garden that the visitors take, there's quite a big giant redwood.
Wow. And
again, from 1866, I think this photo's dated as, it's already quite tall. And we know the first seeds are supposed to have come into the country in the 1840s, like 1843 or something. I might have that wrong. If anyone knows better, please let me know. But there's this picture from the 1860s, only 20 years on, and it's really quite a substantial tree already. So just to show that growth and having that comparison, you know, from that time is quite exciting. Having the history in this garden, I suppose that's not something we generally get just in our own gardens. We can see something through our lifetime perhaps, but you know, when you've got 300, 400 years of history that you can be looking back on.
Yeah, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I know Mark said in his when he was telling us all about you're something about fungi. What's that? You grow fungi? You collect fungi?
Oh, I think on my Instagram bio it mentions sort of plants, fungi, and I'm obsessed with mushrooms. I absolutely love them. I don't know loads about them. I'd love to learn more. But we have, I think I put them all on a newsletter last year, but the amount of fungi growing in this garden is quite astounding, and the things I've never seen before. You know those? Have you ever seen an earth star?
No.
I think it's on the Melbourne Hall Gardens Instagram page. But if you scroll through some of the old posts, you'll come across this. It's like a ball with a star underneath it. Because it opens like that, sort of peels into this star shape, holding, you know, it's obviously where all the spores come out. It's the most amazing thing. And we have some underneath a U tunnel. Not a U tunnel, it's one of the hedges, but it's behind it. And I've never seen them in my life, and I always wanted to see one. And I just went to tie up a piece of yew once, and was like, "Oh, there's earth stars here! That's amazing!" Yeah, but again, I think fungi. Obviously, we only really ever see their fruiting bodies. We never really are aware of the whole underground network.
Yeah.
And I think that's been exciting for me. So when I was at horticulture college, we never really learned about soil microorganisms as much as I think people should. And probably, maybe it wasn't as well known back then, was it? We keep learning new things, don't we?
Yeah.
So my workmates lent me a book by someone called Jeff Lowenfels, and it's called Teeming with Microbes.
Yeah.
And all about the relationship of plants and the what lives in the rhizosphere.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not just the fungi but the bacteria as well. Yes. Sorry, Daniel, that's a good one. I've got a Danish friend, one of his favourite jokes, and I share it every time now I talk about mushrooms. Is it edible? Yeah, but only once. Yeah, so I found that quite illuminating, just the fact that nothing really exists in isolation. And the minute you start removing life from things and you start spraying things and you start, trying to control this and control that, you really are doing so much damage in the long run.
That you don't,
because, sorry.
That you don't even know what you're doing.
Exactly. And I mean, you can't really blame people because people haven't known about this. So, I don't try to blame. But it's really amazing. I've been reading another book by that same chap called Teeming with Bacteria just recently. And, we're sort of learning about the mycorrhizal networks and how things are connected through fungi. But I had no idea the hugely important role the bacteria play as well in the soil. And some amazing facts was that plants will change, because I always knew that they have sort of exudates out their roots that will feed the fungi and the bacteria that are around them. What I didn't know is that they change what they exude depending on which bacteria and fungi they need in that particular moment.
Wow.
Like, how mind-blowing is that?
Yeah.
Like communication.
Yeah.
Almost.
And so the minute you start sterilizing things, you could potentially be removing the bacteria or the fungi that plant needs for that moment.
It's phenomenal.
So, yeah. So it's definitely, that has influenced the way I try and garden and what I'm trying to do in the gardens now. I feel like the soils, in a very traditional way, had a lot removed from it. So, whenever the herbaceous perennials die back, they're chopped and they're moved, and leaves fall and they're raked away and taken away.
Definitely.
So very much trying to just leave as much as we can on, and it put a lot more back onto it in the way of organic matter to try and feed the soil so that everything could just look after itself.
Exactly. But that's the thing. You look in the woodlands or underneath the hedges, nothing's ever taken away from underneath there, and everything is absolutely teeming, isn't it?
Exactly. It's just try and mimic what happens in the natural world, and you're usually not going wrong.
Exactly. Definitely.
I don't know if you chaps have heard of a book called Soil and Health, I think it's called. But it's written by a man called Sir Albert Howard. And I can't remember if it came out in the 1930s or the 1940s.
Wow.
But basically what he did, obviously this was at the time when nitrogen fertilizers and things started becoming a bit more prevalent.
Yeah.
He went all around what was the British Empire at the time, doing trials on different farms, and he was obviously excluding any chemical fertilizer, and was just composting absolutely everything. And he was even going into villages like in India and collecting all their waste and composting that. And it's funny, you go to the back of the book and there's all these charts of different, like people in South Africa or people in India, or all their different composting methods. It's quite a hefty read if you're ever interested. But some amazing results that he had was that his farms never really got sick. He mentions there was one time one of his crops got a disease, and it was because there was waterlogging and one of the fields flooded. But other than that, all the neighbouring fields who were using chemicals and things all got diseased. But his was in the next field and wouldn't get sick.
Wow.
And then he'd feed cattle on what he'd grown. And it says he'd send the cattle in amongst the neighbouring herds that had like foot and mouth disease, and his cows would never get sick.
Oh.
So this was all again from quite early in the 20th century. But even back then, he was looking at the effect of the chemical fertilizers, the effect of just feeding the soil, and he even points out the mycorrhizal connection between certain plants and noted that the healthier ones had more fungal growth on their roots.
Wow.
So all this information was there.
Yeah.
Because it's quite crazy that, we're talking about the the mycorrhizal fungi network and what's under the ground. But I've only started hearing about that for the last several years.
Yeah.
But back however long ago that was. What did you say? 1970?
Yeah, so
did you say?
Probably 90 years ago.
Yeah.
He's at least writing about it. He's probably knowing about it earlier than that.
Exactly. Yeah. So has it taken? It's taken that long to get to everybody's ears.
That's what's amazing, and he's not like an unknown person. So I think he's like, they call him the father of organic agriculture, because there are people that mention him. I think I saw a YouTube video mentioning organic techniques, and they mentioned his name, and that's where I heard it originally, and then looked him up.
Okay.
And I think even I'm sure King Charles I saw him do I don't know if there was like an anniversary to do with him somehow, probably with the organic agriculture movement, and he knows about him because he's spoken about him. So he's not completely obscure, but it is frustrating to know that this was known. Definitely, after years and years of damage, and we're all thinking, oh, now finally we understand. It's like, no, people did understand. Just no one listened.
or was it just dulled down? They didn't want people to know.
That's the main thing. I think the bodies, he was sort of going against the horticulture bodies at the time.
Yeah.
Because they were all so excited about these amazing fertilizers, which obviously developed as a weapon originally. It's funny. It's funny that let's put this weapon on our land and see the benefit years later. Oh no, what have we done? But yeah,
stick some arsenic on there.
Yes, but it is amazing how quickly things can regenerate.
Yeah,
things they can grow so quickly, and the soil life, if you feed them, they're there. So you give them what they need, and they'll come and flourish. Bacteria they can double the colony size in 20 minutes or something, because it takes 20 minutes to split.
Oh, okay.
So if you've got a good source of bacteria originally in the soil, they'll come. If you give them what they need, give them the conditions and the food they need, they'll grow.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It's quite strange because talking about that, because we've got horses. We keep horses, so we've got a field outside here, but we also rent a field in the next village.
Yes.
And so they're Teresa's horses, really, not mine. But the field down the other end, the farmer said, "Oh, I'll sort that out for you." So he sprayed it all with this broadleaf herbicide, and he's done this, done that, and it looks beautiful. And he's put nitrogen on it, beautiful green grass, and you think, "Oh, look at that." And ours, because I say I don't want anything on it, because I want the manure, I want the muck for my my veggies and everything like that. That looks absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
But what do you do? You look out across there, and there is ragwort, 1,000 ragwort plants.
Yes.
But so we have to go around by hand and pull them up or cut them off. But you just think, But then that other field down there, 7 acres down there, looks absolutely beautiful. Big, thick, green. So you know why they did it.
Yeah.
Why they still do it, because it's just absolutely amazing.
It looks nice, I suppose. I think to like an untrained eye, or
that's the thing.
People not in the know, because to be honest, if I look at that, all I see is the fact that there's some strange sort of chemical hormone on it or something that affects the leaves of broadleaf plants, and it looks really ugly. I suppose beauty's in the eye of the beholder and all that.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have what you've got any day.
Oh yeah, no, I love it, except when I think, right, so we've got to get that ragwort out before it goes to seed, because if that goes to seed, next year's going to be 10 times worse, and we won't be any grass left. So we have to this Saturday we're going ragwort pulling and pull the whole field.
Yes.
But you have to let it get big enough to be able to give it a good pull.
Yes.
You can't get it out.
Also, in the meantime, what we do, probably doing myself out of job here, is if I find it on the borders here and there, we stop it going to flower.
Yeah.
But just try and leave the odd one here and there if it's not very observable, because obviously we don't want things to look weedy.
Yeah.
But apparently they're one of the only food sources of the cinnabar moth. Which is,
they absolutely decimate them as well. Like if
you
cinnabar
that's
caterpillars, they're
the little black and orange striped caterpillars, aren't they?
The red and black leaved moth.
Yeah.
But we had loads of ragwort at work in all the meadows, and the cinnabar moth caterpillar turned up, and there's none left now. They literally decimated it.
Wow.
So it's almost like a natural hole for it.
Well, everything in nature's always seeking a balance.
Yeah.
And there was this video years ago, and this is what made me think, actually. I was watching it on YouTube. There's a chap in, I think he's Canada, and he's got what he calls a permaculture orchard. So I think he's just grown some nitrogen fixing plants in amongst his orchard. But he grows plums and apples and all sorts. And he was showing the dandelions. And he said when he first moved into that land, he couldn't see grass for dandelions. It was completely yellow. But he never took a single one out. And he just pointed the camera down at the soil and showed you the ground everywhere. And it was all grass. There was one or two dandelions here and there. But it had naturally sorted itself out. Because obviously the dandelion's going deep into the ground, mining minerals, putting that in its leaves, the leaves die, and it makes the ground habitable for other things that are more shallow rooted. And so there's always this balance being, obviously when you've got horses and they can't eat ragwort, else they'll die. You know, there's other things to take into consideration. But I find it amazing that if you try and work along with the systems, there is sort of a balance that eventually comes.
Yeah, it's like the black fly. If you wait, leave them, the ladybirds will come.
Yes.
Or there's always something that's the predator for that will always happen. But if you don't give it a chance, if you spray it off straight away, there's nothing there, so they won't ever come. So if somebody says, "I never get ladybirds, so I spray insecticide," well, that's why.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing for them to eat.
We shouldn't think that unless you see a ladybird right in your garden, that they don't exist and won't come into those aphids either. I remember, is it David Attenborough? Was it at Kew Gardens or something? But there was one of those shows where it mentioned the pine aphid. And these pine trees were struggling with the aphid. And I think the pine put out some sort of chemical that the ladybirds could sense and smell and realise, there's aphids on that pine, and they all came in.
Wow.
So the tree was calling its own defences. And so I can't understand why that wouldn't exist with other plants as well, in some form or other. Like the lily beetles always seem to know where the lilies are,
exactly,
no matter how many times you kill them. So why would the ladybirds not know where the aphids were? Or,
exactly, yeah.
The aphids always seem to find the roses all right, so I'm sure the ladybirds will find
they
do. On that note, actually, we have noticed for anyone some practical tips. Obviously, lupins struggle with lupin aphids, and we've had them quite badly in these gardens in previous years, and even in this year, one of the lupins we've got growing in the kitchen garden was absolutely smothered. But wherever we put a thick layer of mulch over winter, none of those lupins have had a single aphid on them.
So it's almost like you've smothered the...
I don't know why. I don't know whether they've put on, stronger growth or something, because there's more nourishment in the soil, and obviously the bacteria and the fungi and all the rest of it is giving it what it needs. Yeah. But where we didn't put mulch, there's aphids. And when we did, there's none. So,
wow.
If anyone wants to try that.
So next year, you need to try it the opposite way around and see if it still works the opposite way around.
Yes.
And if it does, the year after, do all of it.
Yes. We might have to plant a few sort of trap ones in the kitchen garden and try them. I don't know if I'd like to risk the ones in the borders. They're so beautiful.
Do some tester ones.
absolutely.
The slugs are having all our lichens before the aphids even get a chance.
Oh no!
I was just about to say, how is your slug presence at the moment? It seems to be terrible everywhere.
Really?
This year, yeah, really bad.
I don't. We have had a bit of slug damage, not loads. I don't know. There's many facets, I think, to this, but we work at least in the garden that a lot of water, which means we have a lot of newts.
Yeah.
We have a lot of toads and frogs.
Yes.
And then there's ducks as well, and
Yeah.
So whether we've just got good pest control, I don't know. Everything's again been quite heavily mulched over the last year, and I would have expected, with how quickly everything's grown, for there to be a lot more damage. But we don't seem to have much.
It sounds like you've got the slug patrol on your side, haven't you?
I think it's got to do with that. We've got a lot of hostas, and they don't really get touched.
Wow.
But I think because they're sort of planted right next to streams and they're constantly moist, there's no. I think I once heard Monty Don say on Garden as well, so I've sort of taken it as gospel truth, that if they don't dry out and then get wet again, they don't seem to get attacked by slugs or something. So
almost like the stress of it. Like if a plant's stressed, things just go.
Yeah,
I'll have it.
Yeah.
But they might know. They might put out some kind of whatever. They know what that's the weak one. Go for the weak one.
Yes. And they always eat the soft growth, don't they? The new growth and like little seedlings that you've put in, so that they are going for the soft growth. And so I wonder if you're not overfeeding things, because we haven't fed the borders. We've just given a mulch, which will feed the life in the soil, not really the plant.
Okay.
Maybe they're not putting on a lot of very lush wet growth. There's, I don't know.
What did you mulch with in the autumn?
Leaf mould.
Yeah.
That quite amazingly had formed over. So I collected the leaves, not this winter gone, but the one before, and it was ready to use, which I find quite cool because usually it takes a bit longer. Yeah. And then we've mixed it with manure. Okay. So we've got sheep, goats, some horses, some pigs, some chickens in the gardens.
Yeah. And
so very fortunately we get, whenever all the manure is picked out from the paddocks, we add it to the compost heap now. But it was a sort of big old manure heap. So we did sort of half a barrow of leaf mould, half a manure, mixed it up, and then mulched with that.
Right.
So
it seems to have done the trick then.
Yeah. There doesn't seem to be anything that's really affected by much. We're struggling with the rose sawfly.
We've got a bit of that at work.
The leaf curling one. Yeah.
The top leaves curling completely up.
So we got a lot of that. But I was encouraged when I read about their life cycle that they live under the soil, but obviously while they're in the leaf, they're in that leaf. They're not like, they haven't been injected into the stem or anything, so they're quite easy if you just take the leaves off, if it's not too many.
Yeah.
Or even just squash them while they're in there if you can find it, if you don't have many roses.
Yeah.
You've sort of done most. Quite easy to kill.
I haven't got many.
Sorry if anyone loves sawfly larvae or anything.
I think if you're a gardener of any type, you always know you've got to do a little bit of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've become so desensitized to killing lily beetles now. I've sort of got an orange stain on my fingers most of the time. I see them think, oh, quick, got one. Killed, dead.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? It's awful. But even slugs, when you pick a slug up, you think, oh my God, it's absolutely disgusting.
I don't think I'm not at that stage yet. I can't pick a slug up with my bare hands yet.
Oh, well, I have a few times.
By the 100th one, it's just like...
well done.
But they don't even come off. They just stick to your fingers.
I remember I used to be very much like, oh no, I can't kill slugs, I can't kill snails. This was while I was at Pershore College still, and we'd had a college visit to, I think, is it Hanbury Hall down in Worcestershire, and the head gardener there had given me these beans. They had this old heritage variety of beans, purple podded ones. They were so beautiful, and I planted them all in the spring. I wasn't very experienced with horticulture by that time, or growing vegetables and things, so I was very excited about these plants. They're all coming up. And I came out the next morning after I'd seen them all germinate. I was thinking, oh, brilliant. The next morning, I think there was one or two of my seedlings left. And there was this little slug that was translucent, and I could actually see the bean being digested in its system. It still had the green in its system. And I remember that night going out with a vengeance. Like, I slaughtered every slug I could. It was funny because we had this floodlight that used to come on with motion sensor, and the rain was lashing down that night, and so we had all these slugs on the lawn, these huge big slugs, and I had a hoe, and I was sort of chopping them in half. It was like a scene out of a horror film. Like a sort of Igor going to get a brain with Dr. Frankenstein out in the garden collecting something. It was hilarious. That was the night my massacre started, and I've never really turned back.
Were they really big slugs?
Yes.
Are they called Spanish slugs?
I don't know. I never stopped to look.
You didn't see what uniform they got on?
No. I didn't hear what language they were pleading for their lives in either. Senor. There was I think they were dark. They were darkly coloured.
But I can remember, and I've heard a few people say, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, something like that. There was a couple of years where they were really, really bad, and the whole lawn, like you're saying, even if the whole lawn was covered. Yeah,
that's what it was like.
Oh,
maybe they are then. I hope so.
Yeah, somebody said they were Spanish. Yeah,
because I heard. So I listened to a lot of Gardeners Question Time and all that, so I'm always quoting people. But Pippa Greenwood, awesome. I absolutely love Pippa.
I love Pippa.
She said some. Oh no, maybe it was Anne Swithenbank. Anyway, but someone on the latest GQT, I'm sure, was talking about slugs. And they said the big ones don't seem to do too much damage, but the little ones, obviously with your seedlings and things.
Yeah. And
that's immediately taken me back to that night all those years ago, thinking, have I killed all the all the ones that ate all the weeds or something? I don't know. It felt awful.
I was going to say, if that was the Spanish slugs in the garden where you are now, you'd have to blame Thomas Cook for bringing them over.
Absolutely, yeah. Part of the original design, yeah. He planted a U-tunnel, brought over some slugs because they like the look of them or something, I don't know. Very, very pretty pattern to their coloration.
Oh, they are terrible, absolutely terrible. I haven't, up until now, I'm going to touch wood anyway, this year, I've noticed, but I haven't had none for the last, I've only been gardening for about 4 years, lockdown gardener I am.
Oh, awesome.
And this year I've noticed out in my veggie patch, they're there.
Yes.
But I haven't had no problem up until this year.
Do you use beer traps?
I don't know. I haven't used anything at the moment. I'm trying. Mark found a reel. Who was that, Mark? That reel with the wood?
I can't remember. Something.
I can't remember what it was. But put some things that they can hide under in the daytime, and just go and find them in the daytime. So I've got some pieces of wood and some upturned flower pots and things, and I'll just go and see if they're there in the daytime.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, because they obviously need somewhere nice and damp and cool in the daytime.
I found something cool. So I've got beer traps. I use the beer to trap them, and it works brilliantly. So wherever I've seen a bit of slug damage, we'll use that method.
Yeah.
But I read in Hortus Journal, something called the Scandinavian cannibal slug method. Right. So listen up, everyone. Basically, you get some nematode. So the nematode that infects them.
Yeah.
You trap some slugs, or you go out in the garden when it's getting dark,
Yeah.
and you collect up some slugs, and you chop them up, and you soak them in the nematode for a while. Then you put dollops of those nematode slugs around the garden. And of course, I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you squash a slug at night, within sort of 20 minutes, there's other slugs eating it.
I've not noticed.
Yeah,
that.
it's really revolting. These creatures don't seem to do anything endearing. But
What is their purpose?
they will have a purpose, and probably just the way we garden has meant there's too many of them or something.
Yeah.
But this method seems to, I've tried it, I've not noticed much slug damage. So maybe that's helped as well, the cannibal slug method. And it helps the nematode go further as well, because if you've got a big garden, you can't go around watering the soil everywhere.
No.
With the nematode, it'd be really expensive.
Yeah.
So helping sort of spread the nematode through slugs eating other slugs seems to be quite an economic way of doing it.
I have to try that, because I was thinking about it. If it gets any worse and I can't stop it,
Yeah,
you've got to try nematode. But I might try it like that rather than just watering it on, because there's lots of beds. I've never used nematode before. I've seen it obviously lots, but I don't know how far it goes and how much it is, to be honest. So
yes. I mean, it's not the most expensive thing in the world, but if you've got sort of 17 acres, you're trying to control things.
No, not quite.
And like's just been put on a comment, every time you introduce something into a sort of ecosystem, if you introduce too much of something, or you end up killing the good ones, and so always with a bit of, what's the word, got to be responsible the way you do things, I suppose, don't you? But I quite like this cannibal slug method. I was paging through this and suddenly, that looks good. Like the look of that.
So you just mix the nematode up and drop some slug pieces into it, and
Yeah, if you type that into Google, Scandinavian cannibal slug method, it comes up on the website with this article, so you can see exactly what it is. But yeah, you got to collect them up and then mix them in the nematode, basically. But then also you've got the I don't know if you do much with biodynamics, or you've heard much about biodynamic gardening.
Not really.
So I read a book years ago on it, and they've got all these methods of treating like with like. And so you collect the pest and you burn it, and then you put the ashes back, and it's supposed to stop them. I've never tried it, but when you're desperate, desperate times and all that. So
I heard a good way of sorting ants out the other day. If you get oats, rolled oats,
right,
and just whiz it up in your food processor, so it's like a flour, and the ants will walk through it and even eat some of it.
right.
But then they take it back to the nest, and the other ants, they clean each other, so they're eating all this oats.
Yeah.
And when it gets into their digestion system, it swells up and pops.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's a, I wouldn't say a
That's
nice
really
way, but it's a chemical-free way
Yeah.
of stopping getting rid of
I
your
had
ants.
no idea that. I suppose, is that the same as like the rice in pigeons? You shouldn't put uncooked rice or something, and the pigeons will eat it and explode.
Because it will swell up.
That's really interesting. Gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you grind them up into like a powder.
Yeah, just put it down, and the ants, they don't even have to eat it, because when they go back into the nest, other ants clean them, so they don't bring
Yes.
foreign bodies and muck and stuff into the nest.
Oh wow. I've noticed that how wet the ground is. You mentioned ants, like the amount of ant hills that are all above the ground this year. Because they bring everything up above the surface, don't they, when it's so wet? It's really, really struggling with the damp this year. All our borders flooded in December. I don't know how bad where you guys were when we had that rain sort of December time.
Very bad.
And all the rivers flooded and everything. It was awful. I think
I'm not too bad. We're over here in Norfolk, so we get it quite good, to be honest. Touch wood.
Oh, again. Okay. Is it generally quite dry there then?
Yeah.
Do we get all the rain sort of before it hits you.
Yeah. it all gets rained out before it comes to us.
Would you like some?
Nah.
You're
We've
right.
had quite a bit today actually, and that's plenty enough. That'll do for a couple of weeks.
Yes. Oh, we're so sick of this.
Oh.
I did threaten. I've been saying to people, another year of the rain we've had, I've got to emigrate.
Back to
Back
South
to South
Africa.
Africa.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, go become a garden boy.
Mark's had it really bad with the rain. His veggie patch has been underwater all year, isn't it? Just about.
Oh no! Have you heard seen those floating gardens? Is it that the Aztecs used to have or something?
We need it.
Yeah. That might be the way we have to go in this country. I feel like any more rain, the whole actual land is going to lift, and we're going to sort of drift off into the Atlantic. Dissolve the foundations.
It has been horrendous, but like I
Yeah.
say, here we don't get it. We've got our field at the back, and it can pour down all day, and it'll be puddles all. But the next morning it'll be gone. We're really lucky with our land. It's quite sandy and
Right.
draining. But when we went,
I
can't remember, we went up Yorkshire, I think, York Way somewhere to pick a horse up 3 months ago, and just the water sitting on the fields, just either side of the motorways, and everything's just horrendous.
Yeah.
Never known nothing like it.
No. We've got farmers here in the fields sort of around. He said for 60 years they've been farming and they've never ever seen it this wet.
Yeah.
Just the rain just washed sort of half of the field away. We want to say it's because you're only growing one plant. There's no roots to hold the soil in place, but keep quiet.
Don't get into that with a farmer.
Oh no, I'll never. No, they know a lot more than I could ever think of knowing about the land and all that. But
Yeah.
we are discovering a few things.
There's a farmer in the next village, and he's part of his field is on a slope.
Yes.
It's quite a good slope, and he usually ploughs and plants going across. But this year he went up and down, and it was potatoes.
Okay.
And you can imagine,
Yeah.
water just funneled straight down, straight across the road, and it was just black, muddy water potatoes. It just washed the whole field down the hill because he just made loads of funnels for it. Yeah, all the way down. It's ridiculous.
Yikes.
I don't think he'll ever do that again.
No.
No.
I've seen quite a few farmers. Are probably just on telly. I think there was a show about the way some farmers are going a different route now, but where they sort of trample the vegetation from the previous year and then sow into it, and of course that's feeding the soil again.
Yeah.
And often bring like cattle and things in to trample it down.
That way, do.
Yeah.
I know they don't deep plough as much now. They just kind of scrape the top, just the first couple of inches. They don't very rarely do that massive great plough that they used to do every year.
No.
I suppose,
which is very, very good.
Yeah, that's the whole no dig thing, I suppose, isn't it? That's that similar kind of thing, but on a grander scale.
Yeah. And I wonder even if the whole no dig of, leaving things and then having a variety of plants growing, it's such like an obvious thing to do when you're in sort of our line of work and we're gardening sort of small scale. How do you scale that up? How do people manage to sort of have, because everything's so mechanized now, you've got tractors that sort of have to harvest sort of things meters across.
Yeah.
Like, how on earth can you, I don't know. I was bare thinking about it's not my my thing I have to come up with.
I think they do it. I don't know whether you watched it, but did you watch Jeremy Clarkson's farm?
Yes.
Thing? That the pop star, where he took over one of his fields. What did he have? He had beans and a grain in the set at the same time, didn't he? I suppose that's that kind of thing. What are you talking about?
And that's quite good because they can just use a grading system then, can't they, and just filter out the smaller things and keep the beans in, I suppose.
Yeah.
So if there's ways around it, and I always, you're up against a lot of people when you talk about changing methods a bit, and it's almost like but this is the way we've always done it. So, you know, you've got to respect people sort of have a way that they're used to doing things. But also at the same time to mention, a few years, decades ago, you were actually doing it this way against what people have been doing for hundreds of years.
Exactly, yeah.
So we treat these methods, sort of spraying everything, usually like, oh, it's the traditional way, but it really, really isn't.
Yeah, it's horrible as well. We live right next. We live on a farm. Basically, the farm fields are that side, and they come out with I think it's barley in the field over there. These massive things, sprayers with the booms of about 15 meters across, spraying it, and you can smell it. You know, I just said, "Come on, let's go in." I'm not going to even stand outside. You can smell it coming across.
I've known
but
someone. There's someone in Pershore, actually, or the next village, Evesham. It's quite an agricultural area, and she always used to tell us a story about this woman that nearly died because she was cycling past a field where they were spraying, and she just fainted. So ever since then, I've always had this sort of vision of, oh dear, these things are supposed to just kill plants, or I think, oh, worry.
I think if you ingested enough of it, that wouldn't do much good.
No,
would it?
Well, anything that kills things, I can't imagine is very good ever. No. You know what I mean? Like something actually designed to kill things en masse.
Yeah.
Can it ever really be good for you?
No. Well, it's like spraying wheat with weed killer to brown it off.
Yeah. They're an annual crop, aren't they? They're an annual plant. Yeah. They're going to die. They're not. Yeah.
They just want it quicker. They do that with rapeseed as well, don't they? They spray that off.
Yeah.
So you just think,
yeah,
just wait.
It is. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. Oh. Right, so David, it's 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry for rambling.
No,
I have a habit of just like going on and on and on and on.
We love rambling.
That's good. It fills the time at least, doesn't it?
So we'll finish with our round, David.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
So, tea or coffee?
Oh, depends what time of day. Coffee first thing, but tea for the rest of the day.
Flowers or vegetables?
Flowers now. I would have said vegetables in the past.
Beach or forest?
Oh, forest.
What's your go-to emoji on a text?
The winky one.
If you could have one snack for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh my goodness.
Pears.
Good one.
You cannot beat a good juicy pear. There's nothing like it on earth.
Pear, no.
And if there's no ripe pears around, mangoes. But one of those two.
Good choice. Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Finish the sentence. My perfect day would be
sun tanning.
Right.
But that's only because it's been so wet.
Sowing seeds or potting on?
Potting on.
Spring or summer?
Spring in England is normally nicer weather than summer because it's usually just wet and a bit miserable. So I'd say spring in this country.
And today's favourite plant?
Today's. I'm obsessed with a fern leaf lavender that I've just sown, and they're just coming up. They've got their first true leaves. Oh, wow. Lavandula multifida. Really excited about them growing. So that's my number one at the moment.
Oh, I'm going to look that one up in a minute.
And final one, weeding or deadheading?
Deadheading. Love a pair of secateurs in hand. And the holster. It makes you feel like you're in the Wild West. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you got hori hori?
No. I need one. I really need one.
I love my hori hori.
I'll tell you why, because we've got this arboretum which we're full of tulips and camassias, and they're all sort of the colours of sort of purples and pinks and things. Yeah. And the yellow of a dandelion really goes against that. So all the dandelions need removing. And a hori hori is one of the best things for it. So I really, really need one of those. So it's next on the list, I think.
Yeah, treat yourself.
If I can stop myself buying seeds. I blow the budget on seeds all the time.
Never stop buying seeds. I had some more turn up the other day and I forgot to even order them from Chiltern Seeds. I went, oh no, I don't need to.
Awesome. I love it though. You've got to keep them coming. There's so many beautiful things out there. So Chiltern's great. Sorry, I know we're finished now.
That's right.
There's one called Special Plants Nurseries.
Okay.
Plant World Seeds is another one. And they grow a lot of rare and unusual ones, and often they collect seeds from their own plants.
Okay.
And there's some really unusual plants on there. And I'm growing quite a lot that we're putting out into the borders this year. So there'll be plants in these borders that you haven't actually seen probably in other gardens before. So I'm hoping that they'll be integrated quite nicely so they look like they're meant to be there. But also there's something quite interesting for different botanists or people more sort of plant obsessed like I am.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So just tell us the name of the garden again and where it is.
Melbourne Hall, and it's in the town of Melbourne, but South Derbyshire, just near between the M1 and 842. If anyone's interested, please come and visit and let me know you're coming. Get in touch with me on my Instagram or on the garden one, and I'll always come down and see people are interested in looking at the gardens.
Definitely, we'll arrange something and come over. Fantastic.
Absolutely, please, you must.
Will do. Thanks ever so much.
Oh, thank you so much. It's
been great.
Well, quite an honour, really. But thank you so much. And again, sorry for the rambling, but there's a lot to say.
Stop it. Fine, don't worry. Thank you very much.
All right. Cheerio.
See you later. Bye.
There we go.
That was good.
Sorry, I had to dash down because my phone was dying. I didn't want to drop off our cable.
That's all right.
My phone's battery is not charging very well. I think I need a new phone.
Yeah, that's the first sign, isn't it? Battery's terrible.
Yeah. Usually charges on my way home, but today I got home and it's only at 40%. So I usually try and get to like at least 85
before we come on here. Yeah, mine was at 95 and I got 55. So
I had 70 when I started and I was down to 15 when I came back to the house. I don't want it to die.
So that's another garden we've got to book in.
Well, we'll have to do Middleton
and Chris's one
on the same day.
It's Chris's one, Middleton.
Daniel's.
Oh, but where did Chris used to work as well?
Easton, but that's Grantham.
Is it a different way? Is it?
Yeah. But yeah, we could do those two in the same day. I would have thought. Yeah. Depending.
Yeah. Definitely needs to
doing garden building and go have a look around there instead.
Oh my God! I don't even know if Kim's here. Is she? Because I can't see her. She is here. Kim, I didn't say that. You sound really bunged up. Was it your hay fever?
Suffering really bad this weekend. Yeah. Really bad. I need to.
I did, but I've had an antihistamine for the last 3 days on the trot, and I've touched wood. I've been fine.
What have you had? Have you had fenofexidine or just over the counter?
Just Tesco one, yeah.
That'd be Loratide. Yeah, I've ordered some from the doctors, so hopefully once I've got that out, pick up again. But usually, like last year, I was barely affected by it, but this year it's hit me like a bus.
Yeah.
Awful. Like, it feels like I've got some kind of like flu or something.
Yeah, you're definitely bunged up.
Yeah. Well, when I went for my asthma review today, she was like, "You've got hay fever." I have.
Well, what did she give you a prescription there and then?
Well, she's ordered it for me, but it always takes a couple of days.
Oh, right.
Because for some reason, our doctors has got a pharmacy attached to it. They don't give it out from that pharmacy. You have to go to the co-op in the village.
Oh.
So I don't know why they've got a pharmacy.
Random.
Really, really weird. Who knows? Yeah. There's a lot of people suffering by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Joe Fedefexty works for her.
I've just had the cheap ones from Tesco's, and at the moment they're doing all right.
Yeah, it's grass pollen that I'm allergic
Same
to.
as me.
Yeah.
And it was what 4 days ago exactly now that I felt it. I went straight away. I went, oh, hay fever started.
Yeah.
Little sneezing fit, about 6 or 7 sneezes, one after the other.
Yeah.
Oh, itchy eyes. Yeah, here it comes.
I don't tend to get the itchy eyes. It's literally just my nose. Absolutely.
I get itchy eyes, itchy throat down the back there. I feel like going, I feel like I scratch it down the back of my throat. And I sneeze and sneeze and sneeze and sneeze and sneeze and sneeze and sneeze. Yeah, just keep going. And they were going, what's he doing? It's not my fault. Yeah. Not the best thing to have for being a gardener, is it?
No. Although, even if I wasn't, it'd still get me, wouldn't it? So, as an electrician, it's still pollen about.
Yeah, of course it is, definitely. Right, mate, I'm going to go.
Yep, the late one today.
Yeah, it's a good one. I enjoyed that. Really did. Bit of history.
Definitely.
So we're going to have a look at this on Thursday.
Yeah.
Drink it on Friday.
Yep. So next week's podcast, we've got the lovely Jen and Racinda from Two Girls One Plot podcast, and I was there this week's podcast, and they mentioned Through the Garden Gate on it.
Did they?
So that was very nice of them. It made me laugh.
I haven't listened to their new one yet, so
but I'll share that next week on our stories so that people know who they are and stuff. I'm sure they know who they are because they're brilliant.
And then the week after that, we're having just a chat between us because we're building and we don't want to, just in case things overrun or don't overrun all the things. So it'll just be just us having a chat.
It's Build Week at Gardeners World Live.
Yeah,
that'll be the old week for us all. Lots going on, lots to talk about. I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure they will. Cool.
Are you staying?
I'm staying at the moment. I've got to come home Saturday night because we've already got something booked in, but then I'm back again early morning Sunday, staying Sunday night, and then depending on where we get to on Monday is whether I stay for Tuesday or not.
I'll see you on the Saturday then, because I'm there on Saturday.
Oh, right, yeah, we're definitely there Saturday. I think it's just me and Kim on Saturday, just starting putting bits up. Yeah. Right. Okay. See you later, Snotty.
Right, everyone.
Right. All right. Cheers, mate. Thanks, everyone. See you later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Through the Garden Gate.